Achmad Ajuah was the third important person that I met. Actually fourth, because there was Uncle Mustache who fed me all the time, and there was Ismail and his wife Awadiyah, which we will talk about in another chapter. Ahmed, I met him one day together with Ismail. As usual, we were sitting in one of the hotels nearby the old city on the outside of the walls. And we were drinking whiskey and talking. And this man comes by, very stately, very straight, with a super Arabic mustache, very formal. And he says, "This is a newspaper man." So I said to myself, "Big deal, newspaper man, okay." He sits down and he automatically sort of takes over the conversation. And I see that there's something behind the way he's talking. He understands things. And he begins to talk about the differences between the Arab culture and the Israeli culture, and places where they can help one another. And this went on, but I was never, at that time, during that year, I never got too close to him, because when people are so well dressed and official-like looking, I sort of back away. I liked Ismail, who was a little bit flumpy and clever in his own way, and you could feel the wisdom coming out underneath the streetwise person. So I really didn't pay that much attention to him. He was there from time to time. At that time, just shortly before, something happened with Awadiyah, his wife, which I will tell about in another chapter. And I was invited to Habonim, World Habonim, and they suggested that I go to America and pick up a workshop group, a group that spends a year in Israel. And so I did that, and I said goodbye, all my goodbyes, and was really very, I mean, it's hard to talk about how I left the old city, because I never really left it. I used to come back every week or two. I'd sneak there for a day or so to just walk around and talk to people. I had a group, and this was something brand new for me. I had previously worked with a youth group from Youth Aliyah in Israel. These were kids from, local kids that were picked up and brought together in a group to spend 4 years of their high school on the kibbutz, but I had never really did any kind of work with intelligent Americans who come with all their opinions. I'd seen the groups already in the kibbutz, and it was very exciting for me. During this year, I already told you about Ismail's trial and how he left for Jordan. But before that happened, I had the kids, the group that I had, went to Bet Barrel for a study period. And I thought during that time it would be a wonderful idea to bring Ahmed there, a newspaper man. I thought it would be a wonderful idea. They were all in Bet Barrel, and they were getting talks about the War of Independence and the establishment of the state. This was 1968. So they were getting talks about the establishment of the state and what happened to the Arabs. So I thought it'd be a wonderful idea to bring Ahmed over and let him talk to them. And I went to the old city, I got Ahmed, I said, look, we can go and you can talk to the kids, you'll spend the night there, we'll bring you back. And I saw this tall, handsome, dark man go white. He was so frightened. He said, your secret police, they're going to pick me up the minute I stop talking. I know that. And you're asking something very difficult. And I said, no, it's just American kids. I'm responsible. Just American kids there. You'll go and you'll talk to them. They're 18 kids. And they want to know about Israel. And I want you to give them how you see the state of Israel and the War of Independence and how everything got started and came up to the 6-Day War. And I saw him, he was afraid, he was stuck. Because to say no means he's a coward, and his facade was really the most important thing in the world. To say yes, for him, means that he's going to go to jail. So he said yes. And I said, look, okay, Ismail will come with us, we'll take a taxi, we'll go. And this happens, we get the taxi, Ismail comes, and we're sitting in the taxi, and I see Ahmed is still white as a sheet and shaking. So we stop at an Arab village on the way, Abu Ghosh, and I figure we'll have something to eat. And he takes nothing. He feeds everybody else. Feeds us, actually, the two of us, and the driver, the taxi driver. And he's still white as a sheet. And we get in the car and we drive, and I'm really worried. But I say, what can there be? There's 18 kids. Well. This is where the big surprise. We walk in, and they all know, this is like a local college. They know that an Arab is coming to talk. So there was like 20 people older than me by around 3 or 4 years who had all participated in the War of Independence. And they're all sitting there in a block on the left side of us to the rear. And he just looks and he sees them, and I see his face go down even further. And I do my best. I introduce him. I say he's a newspaper writer, and he writes for the Jerusalem Post, which he did at the time. And I thought that would soften things up. And I said, he wants to tell you how it was like for him during these 19 years, or even 20 years, since before the War of Independence, and up until today, after the 6-Day War. And he is shaking, but he's talking. He holds himself together, and he tells the story. And all, as he's going on, especially when he got to the War of Independence, and he was talking about the Fallujah pocket and things like that. And I see these people jumping up, and they start yelling at him, "Lo nachon, that's not true. It didn't go like that." And he became even paler than he could have been. I couldn't imagine that. But sheer fright, I'd never seen something like that in a man before. And he just stood there, and I thought he was going to attack or do something or walk away. And then he took a deep breath. And he said very slowly, he said, our realities are formed from newspapers, radio, and what people tell us. We don't see everything by ourselves. I was not fighting, and I wasn't in these places. But this is my truth, and this is the only truth I have to tell you. I'm sure that this truth is very similar to the truth of any other Arab who went through all of this, living in East Jerusalem, or even in Haifa, because he came from Haifa. And this is all I can do. And if you want me to continue, I will. And if not, I won't. And afterwards you can tell us your reality. Wow, there was a real, I'm excited again saying it. There was silence, and the whole sector of people said, no, tell us more, we really have to hear. And then he continued, and he spoke about what happened to the Arabs who were just living there, and they really had no nationality, and all of a sudden there was a war, and then suddenly they had to become Jordanians with not equal citizenship to the real Jordanians, but a very special kind. And how they felt they had to defend themselves against the Jews, because he said at the beginning it was very nice, the Jews and the Arabs got along very well together, until we got the feeling little by little that they really wanted to take over our homes. And so yes, there was a great deal of hate there. And he ended with that pretty much. And as soon as he finished, I was going to rush him out, but this whole crowd of ex-soldiers from the War of Independence surrounded him. And they began talking, and it was like a second session going on where the kids and myself and Ismail were just standing on the side. And then he walked out and he was up at the top of his line. And we came back to Jerusalem and he drank a good deal of whiskey and we put him to bed. And from that point on, I was much closer to him and to his family.